The Northern Ireland problem was a major obstacle to a Brexit deal. It is now becoming increasingly clear that what has been negotiated does not really work. Anger is growing in Northern Ireland, at the EU and at Boris Johnson. No crumb of earth is allowed in. This is the result of what is known as the Northern Ireland Protocol, which the EU and the UK agreed to after months of negotiations. In order to avoid a hard border between Ireland and Northern Ireland, the province remains part of the United Kingdom and at the same time part of the EU internal market and the customs union. A paradoxical stopgap solution, or backstop, which means that not a crumb of earth can get from the British mainland to the Irish island, which necessitates a crisis between the EU and the British and which causes frustration and anger in Northern Ireland to swell. No checks for the movement of goods between Great Britain and Northern Ireland. Boris Johnson had promised again and again. And he had to break that promise. Citizens and companies are now complaining about bureaucratic hurdles. The pro-British unionists in Northern Ireland are in a storm. The Brexit deal prevented a hard border on the Irish island, but it set up a de facto border in the Irish Sea. And that is where everything, really everything that is exported from one part of the United Kingdom to another is carefully checked. These controls are mainly carried out at the Northern Irish ports. The situation not only resulted in empty shelves in Northern Ireland supermarkets at the beginning of the year, because the delivery of goods from Great Britain did not come through or were delayed. And it's even more absurd. It leads to a shortage of potted plants that are stuck in English soil and are no longer allowed to end up on Northern Irish soil. A building contractor ran into problems because the excavated buckets that came with the ship were still contaminated with sand from Great Britain. And sand and earth from Great Britain cannot simply be imported into the EU internal market because both apply according to the strict EU regulations. Health rules as a risk here. Cheesemakers in mainland Britain no longer send their products to Northern Ireland. It just takes too long for the goods to arrive. It used to be a maximum of 3 days. Now, weeks can pass before the delivery takes place. Then the cheese is spoiled. The internet retailer Amazon currently no longer delivers beer, wine and schnapps to Northern Ireland. And what's the reason for that one? The import regulations are too complex and the customs duties are too high. Other goods could also be affected by the delivery stop in the future, announced Amazon in January. All of this leads to frustration in Northern Ireland. And it is directed not only against the EU but also against Prime Minister Johnson, by whom many Northern Irish feel betrayed. It is a frustration that is a gift for the ever-present political extremes in Northern Ireland, and it is increasingly being felt on the streets. Food controls at ports in Northern Ireland were temporarily suspended in early February. The reason was an increase in eerie and threatening behavior in recent weeks, said the area administration that time. At the end of January, a graffito appeared at the port of Larne, where goods from the British mainland are checked, and that thing read, "All border post staff are targets." It was quickly painted over, but shortly thereafter, crosshairs were placed on the whitewashed area. Similar graffiti had previously appeared near Belfast Harbour. Immediately, memories of the darkest hours in Northern Irish history are awakened. The island was in a state of emergency for almost 30 years. The conflict between the predominantly Catholic supporters of a reunification of the two parts of Ireland and the predominantly Protestant supporters of the union with Great Britain killed around 3,500 people. It was only pacified in 1998 by the Good Friday Agreement. The armistice is fragile and the former enemies never really came together. The focus of the Brexit negotiations was the fear that a hard border between Ireland and Northern Ireland could cause the conflict to break out again. This is how the current absurd border construct came about, which does not work and could in turn trigger a conflict. So May's backstop would have been much easier. Recognizing the danger, the EU and Great Britain held a crisis meeting and convened a committee to steer the joint work in a spirit of cooperation, as I said, with responsibility and pragmatism. It is questionable whether this is sufficient for those affected. In any case, both sides have to talk because things could quickly become even more dramatic. A transition phase with simplified controls for goods traffic between Northern Ireland and Great Britain still applies until March. Johnson's Minister of State, Michael Gove, has already called for an extension and that until 2023. If both sides cannot agree on an extended transitional rules, even stricter and more complex controls threaten to cause even greater chaos at the Northern Irish ports. The Brexit expert and Northern Irish conflict researcher Katie Harewood warns, Northern Ireland is a fragile place, very carefully balanced. In Northern Ireland, there is a great fear of not being heard and of being heavily dependent on decisions in London and Brussels. She therefore fears there is a real risk that the Northern Ireland Protocol will collapse. The consequences would be incalculable. On the one hand, the entire trade deal with the EU would be in jeopardy. On the other hand, the Good Friday Agreement could collapse. The only conceivable alternative to the current construct is currently a hard border between Ireland and Northern Ireland. And that, almost all experts agree, would fuel the conflict between Catholics and Protestants. Because in the Good Friday Agreement, London had undertaken to keep this border with the Republic of Ireland open and permeable. And tomorrow there will be my next live stream. You can still ask questions for that live stream on the post on my community tab. Feel free to do so. And if you want to stay informed, please subscribe to my channel and to my other channels. I'll see you in my next video. Auf Wiedersehen.